Gridiron Grinder! Hut hut hike!
All right, we're rolling. It's Friday night, Gridiron Grinder time. I'm Ryan. With me, as always, is my buddy James. Just a couple dudes hanging out, talking about what's going on in the NFL each week. Tonight, episode 67. We're going to start things off with Name That Stadium. Then we're going to do a quick recap of the news from around the league for this past week. After that, we're going to provide our Week 7 power rankings and game picks. And then we'll close things off with question of the week. So, with all that being said, how's it going tonight, James?
It's going good. How's it going with you?
It's going good, man. It's going good. I got to not watch the whole game last night, but enough to man. I was impressed with Cleveland with those injuries, man. They still played pretty well.
Yeah, I attribute it more to Denver being fucking piss poor.
Um, okay, yeah, Denver, Denver. Didn't they start like 3-0? And I think they're on a four-game slide now.
hmm
Yeah, that's rough, man. I was so pumped up for Denver, and it just like, what happened? I don't even know.
Well, what happened was they played freaking three easy ass teams the first three
Oh,
season.
okay.
It's like I think one of their wins was against the Jets. So they beat the Giants, the Jaguars, and the Jets.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, they had a powder puff start, and then it got real, and that's where the
Yeah,
wheels fell off.
and then they have had like, well, besides Vegas, I mean, well, Pittsburgh. So they two of the games they should have won in the four game slide, but
Okay. Well, hopefully they get it back on track, man. I thought they looked good, but I guess that makes sense. It was good against garbage. So,
yeah, exactly.
okay. Well, let's kick things over to Name That Stadium. So this is the part of the show where, as you can see, if you're watching, I guess I shouldn't just assume they can see because we're on all sorts of podcasts. But anyhow, if you're watching, James is out there traveling the country. Every week he's got a different stadium in his background, and we're just asking that if you think you know what that stadium is, hit us up in the comments section. First person to get the right answer, they'll get a special shout out next week's show. And so, James, where were you at last week, man?
Last week I was in Cleveland. I mean, you had Arizona Cleveland game, which I thought was going to actually be a game,
Yeah,
um, that ended up being like a just freaking beatdown, and so I picked Cleveland last week.
gotcha. Yeah, that game, man, I thought it was going to be a tight game. And yeah, I mean, Arizona just, it was just like, nope, we're good. We're good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think didn't Baker go down and was it Chubb was out, so Hunt got hurt
Yep.
in the game. So it was kind of like a whole slew of injuries for Cleveland that kind of killed them in the end.
Yeah, I got you. No, it caught up to him. And, you know, I tell you what, though, with Chubb going down, I mean, with Hunt going down, I mean, we found out last night they have such ridiculous depth at running back. Dearness Johnson just freaking tore it up last night, man.
Yeah, that was a surprise. Like I thought the running game was done after well they had Chubb out and then Hunt getting hurt. I thought the running game was going to take a huge hit, and then what do you have 146 yards and like 700 touchdowns?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, geez, it just if you got one good running back, you're happy. If you
hmm
got two, you're freaking ecstatic. They got freaking three, man. I mean, that guy looked legit, dude. The way he would cut, the speed, I mean, and then running with power. I mean, it was like he was doing a little bit of everything last night.
Yeah, and I've heard a lot today with does the running back position who you have there actually matter now with after his performance? Do you really have to pay your running backs like Christian McCaffrey? He's out again for Carolina, and he
Yeah.
just got he just got that huge contract. And is it worth it if you can just find somebody to replace him?
Yeah, and I think Chuba Hubbard's been playing pretty well in
hmm
McCaffrey's absence too. It's the same thing. Yeah, I mean, if you can swap guys out and get similar production, maybe not quite as good production, but similar production, are you better off spending that money elsewhere on the roster? It's a legit question to ask, man.
Yeah, well, look at last year when McCaffrey went down. Was it Mike Davis had, I would say, as good production, or if not as good, just a little bit below as good production as McCaffrey would have had.
Yeah, and he was just a freaking league journeyman, basically, bouncing
Hmm.
around team to team. Nobody wanted him, and boom, you know. Yeah, I agree. It's tough, man. It's tough. Running backs. It's not that they're extinct. It's just that they're starting to be kind of like a dime a dozen if you know how to scout.
Yeah, if you know how to scout.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, let's move it on here. Let's hit up our recap of the past week. Um, because last night's technically part of next week's show, I guess. But um, so all right, the Jags freaking got a win in London. We'll just start there, and it's just like wow, the Dolphins are really that bad. It's the first time a rookie quarterback has won a game in London. So, congratulations, Trevor Lawrence. And what the frick, Tua in the Miami Dolphins? Like, I don't get it, dude.
I I don't get it either. And what's even worse is Miami has to play again this week after playing in London last week. I thought that was strange. I thought they always had their bye week right after the London game.
Oh, maybe because of the extra game this year, maybe it threw that all into disarray.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, and then hearing it's ridiculous with Jacksonville. Like the locker room was like the atmosphere in the locker room, according to Urban Meyer, was better or like one of his national championships. It's like, are you ridiculous? Are you fucking kidding me?
Just milk it hard. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
well, because he's like, hey, it might be our only win. So, you know, it's our Super Bowl.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, geez. I mean, hey, this could be, the boost that they needed. It really could be. Um, you know, but it just freaking Miami. It just blows my mind how bad they are.
Yeah, well,
Um,
I also liked with Jacksonville, they kind of showed grit down the end and to get that game-winning field goal
oh yeah.
with that's
Oh yeah.
was it time expired or like there was a couple seconds left in the game? It was real late.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, and all right. So, I mean, I guess it didn't go to overtime, but I was watching NFL Network this week, and they were saying through week 6, there have been 11 games to go to overtime, which is the second most all time. I mean,
Jeez.
that's a lot of games, man. That's like 2 a week, basically.
Yeah, wow. That's ridiculous.
We've had some good games, dude. Some good games. Although I will say this, when we get into the schedule, I heard that there's actually only one game this week where both teams have a winning record. And we'll talk more about it later, but I could tell when I was making my picks, it seemed like a lot of the picks were very obvious to me. It's like, yep, yep, yep. There was only like one or two games where I'm like, maybe, like it just and I guess that would make sense. If there's a lot of good teams playing bad teams, then the choice is
Wow, I,
hopefully a little easier.
I I didn't realize that when I was doing the picks, but I was just glancing at it. You're right. There is only the one game. Wow.
Yeah, yeah, the Baltimore game. Yeah, pretty wild, man. Pretty wild. Uh, but that's cool. It's just a fun little factoid to share. And then another one to share, which just still blows my mind. Kansas City leading the league in turnovers. Like it just, hey, they won last week, so I don't want to tear them down too much, but it's like, what is going on, man? They are just not protecting the ball at all this year.
Well, I think what part of the issue with Kansas City is with how bad that defense is. Mahomes, and he'll probably never actually admit it. He's kind of pressing, knowing he has to score like 45, 50 points to fucking win a game. And if they don't score that much, I mean, they have a high chance of losing because that defense is ridiculously bad.
Okay, yeah, so he's just feeling the pressure that he's got to do that much, is what you're saying.
Hmm. Yeah.
I gotcha.
Uh, I mean, through 6 weeks, I mean, they've allowed 176 points. What's that? It's almost
Yeah,
30
it's
points a game.
just under 30 a game. That's a lot, man.
And they're barely +9. Like they've only scored 185.
Yep, yep. Yeah, pretty wild. All right, so I didn't have like a ton of other news, so it just I mean, there's like some more injury stuff, and Von Miller last night. I heard Antonio Brown likely out this week. A whole bunch of New York Giants are out, which is kind of par for the course for them this year, unfortunately. Um, and then I think I saw Trent Williams for the
Hmm.
49ers. I believe he's doubtful. Um,
Uh, Williams is out. Williams
okay.
is out. Brown is out, and Gronk is out. And a lot of injuries. The only thing I picked up on this week is there's a lot, like, so in the offseason we had a lot of chatter of how Watson was going to be traded to Miami,
Yep.
and we had a lot of chatter, and there's reports coming from like the Houston beat writers that like the trade is basically done for trading Watson to Miami, and like the report was the trade could be actually finalized this week. And
Okay.
yeah, it didn't, but it's definitely going to be done before the trade deadlines, with all the reports were, and then all of a sudden other reports were coming in, like the Washington football team were trying to get into the mix for the Watson sweepstakes, and Carolina was trying to get into the mix for it
Oh man.
again. So it's like I don't know if I could trade for Watson at this point, not knowing what's going on with all the legal stuff, and the league hasn't chimed in on it. But
Yeah.
it's interesting, like trading for a quarterback in the middle of the season when your quarterback's not hurt
Yep.
is weird to me.
Well, yeah, it's unheard of. It's a very rare kind of thing, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, if I'm a GM, I'd be nervous to trade for him. I would be thinking, hey,
Hmm.
I'll give you like future everything conditional because I need plenty of time to know if he's going to actually play or not. And if he doesn't, those picks basically go to nothing. But
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know. I heard the last rumor I heard was 3 first round picks were back on the table from some team.
yeah, from Miami, and from what I was hearing about it, it's not the GM in Miami that's driving it; it's the owner. The owner stepping in and saying, "We're trading for this guy, and we'll give them what they want to trade for him." And what's funny is with the rumors is Houston does not want Tua back in the trade. Tua does not want Tua included in the
Yeah,
trade.
yeah, yeah, because they don't see it. I don't see it
Yeah,
either.
I don't see it either. Like I mean, before his injury in college, like I could see how it could translate, but then once he got injured, there was a lot of concerns. I thought he'd come back the same, but he hasn't at all.
No, and I still can't get over the way he throws the football. He doesn't look like he's got a pro arm to me. Like those passes are all, I don't think I've ever seen one tight spiral come off of his freaking arm, dude. It's like at the NFL level, I mean, you don't have to throw a freaking tight spiral, but it just seems strange to me. It's just not adding up.
Yeah, it does. It seems real strange. I don't know what happened there, but I guess Flores chimed in today saying that, well, we like our quarterback, but it's not the coach or the GM that's driving the
Yeah.
the deal. Anyways.
Yeah, and you want your coach to say that, you know,
Mm.
try to motivate the guy because you don't know how long he's going to be the guy. Like the trade may never go through, and so you don't want to piss him off or wreck his psyche. So you got to have the coach keep patting him on the back, building him up. Oh yeah, no, he's good. He's our guy. Yada yada yada. And then there was a trade. Well, they didn't include me in those conversations, and so now I gotta. Here's my new quarterback, and yeah, that's how the game's played.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. Well, let's move it on to the power rankings, man. What do you think?
Sounds good. That was just the Watson thing that I had, that Yeah, just the Watson thing where it seems like it's really becoming imminent that they're going to trade him.
Yeah,
I mean,
it'd be interesting to see it happen, man. Okay, week 7 power rankings. James, when you're ready, man, give me 1 through 5.
all right. So there's a little bit of a shakeup on my top five. I bumped Arizona up 5 spots to number one. I mean, they're dominant. And after I had Cleveland in the top 10, and they just beat the shit out of them last week. So I mean, I got to respect the record. Um, the Rams stayed at number two. They Rams are. I mean, that's par for the course. The Rams are probably going to be at number two until either the Cardinals lose, or I mean, even I might not even move the Cardinals off one if below the Rams because the Cardinals beat the Rams. At number three, I moved the Tampa Bay Bucks up 1 spot. Basically, this is because I moved the Chargers down to number four after losing to Baltimore last week. Look, Baltimore Baltimore's the top half of the league, and it was in Baltimore, which is incredibly hard to win in Baltimore. So I didn't think didn't want to take the Chargers down too far for that because I mean we've talked about it all year. Baltimore, when they're on, they're
Oh
one of the
yeah.
better teams in the league. And then at rounding out the top five, I have Green Bay at number five. They stayed at five from last week, which interestingly I saw. I think it was ESPN's power rankings. They from they were Green Bay was like third or fifth um, going into last week, and then after beating the Bears, they dropped 2 spots to seven.
All right. Well, hey, maybe they thought it was supposed to be like a blowout win.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah. So I have Green Bay. I think five's about right for them. I'm not going to drop them off of a win.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Oh, unless like another team like way outperformed them, but
Yeah, yeah, some other action on the board maybe. I got you. Well, all right. So 1 through 5 on my end. You and I got 1 through 3 aligned. I got Arizona at one. Like we talked about, I didn't expect them to beat down Cleveland by 23 points. Rock solid win. I like them at one. The Rams still at two. Them beating the Giants by 27 points was awesome. It was solid. But we can't forget it's the Giants, and the Giants have a whole ton of injuries. But I don't want to take anything away from the Rams. They did what they were supposed to do. At three, Tampa Bay. You know, the post game was interesting for this because it kept telling me, oh, how strong this Tampa Bay team is, how much depth they have. Leonard Fournette coming into his own, and all I was thinking was, wait a minute, man, they only beat Philly by 6 points. To me, that's way too close for comfort. I was expecting that to be a much wider spread, but
yeah.
you know, and we'll talk about Philly later, but I thought, wow, like they're getting pumped up so much, but it wasn't like it was a dominant win.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
the thing with Tampa Bay is their offense is great, but their defense is fucking piss poor right now.
yeah, and I mean, I know sometimes defenses don't come on until late in the season, but with how well they played last year and the consistency in the player personnel, you would think. I mean, hey, it is what it is. We'll see what happens. All right, so at four, I bumped up Dallas by 2 spots. And this is kind of starting to feel like maybe it's like letdown territory. Having them at four almost feels like they got too high. But, um, and maybe some of that's because they barely beat New England. And then, Buffalo and the Chargers both lost on my board, so I kind of felt like I had to drop them down. But I'm going to roll with it. I do like Dallas. I like what I've seen from them this year. It does feel like it's getting a little bit steep here, but we'll see what happens. And then five, Buffalo. I dropped them down 1 spot. Like here's the thing. I want to give a ton of credit to Tennessee for pulling off the upset, but they've been streaky all year. And I think Buffalo still had a great game, it was just like the first game all year that their defense just couldn't get it locked down. And so I only dropped them one spot because of that.
Yeah, and I have Buffalo at number 6. I dropped them three spots, and it's more of a I'm really down on Tennessee this year. Like
Okay.
I think they were kind of exposed into this or during the past few weeks where Tennessee isn't as solid a team as going into the season we thought they were. And so that's why I was shocked. I mean, they've lost to two a mediocre team and a shitty team this year. Those are their two losses.
Yeah.
So they're overlooking these teams that aren't playing well, which is concerning. At number 7, I have the Cowboys. They stayed at number 7. I'm not going to bump them up for barely beating New England. I have New England's a bottom half of the league team, and they beat them by what was it 6 points. So I'm not gonna give them a bump. I'm not going to drop them down necessarily because they won, unless there's other action. But so I have the Cowboys at 7, 8. I have the Chiefs. They got a spot bump. More the Chiefs and the Bengals got a spot bump more or less because with the injuries coming out of last week, I dropped the Browns down because that team is
Yeah.
way. What I thought, the running game wasn't going to be there for the Browns, and we'll get in them later. But so I dropped them down, so the Chiefs and the Bengals got to bump up there, and then rounding out the top 10, I have Baltimore. This is one spot because of the win and how dominant they were against the Chargers, and the other spot because the Browns were ahead of them, and I dropped the Browns way down. But Baltimore, if it's surprising to me because Baltimore seems to be making up for losing all the running backs, and now with Devonta Freeman and Le'Veon Bell, they seem to be able to find their running game, which is opening up the passing for Lamar,
Yeah.
which is strange. And I think it was Lamar and Joe Burrow are the only two quarterbacks this year to have multiple touchdowns in each one of their team's games so far.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's good for those guys, man. Okay, so yeah, looking at my side, I got Green Bay at 6. I bumped them up 3 spots. And like with Green Bay, like they didn't win in dominant fashion against the Bears or really against a lot of teams this year, but somehow they're still sitting at 5-1. And I think that they're starting to get into form. And so like from here, it could be dangerous, especially as they get into playoff time. They're and I'm just thinking, hey, they're playing that sloppy, and they're still 5-1. When they dial this thing in, it could be crazy. At 7, I got Baltimore. I pushed them up 3 spots on the board, and for them, it's not even sloppy as much as it's just a lack of consistency. But it's the same thing. They're finding ways to win. They're at 5-1, and like you said, it looks like maybe the running game's finally stabilizing for them, which could open up the pass and really change things for that team. At 8, I got the Chargers. I dropped them down 3 spots, and I mean, they lost by 28 to Baltimore. That's a lot, and so 3 spots not horrible. They're still sitting in the top 10. And then at 9, I got Kansas City. I dropped them down 2 spots. I like they got the win over Washington, but this drop, it's not as much about, oh, hey, you got to win against a bad team. It's just too much happened on my board around them, and so despite the win, I had to push them down. And then at 10, I got Tennessee. I like the statement win over Buffalo, but I just, I can't forget it was only a few weeks ago they lost to the Jets. So I'm still hesitant to move them up higher than this at this point in time.
Makes sense. For me, I have San Francisco at 11. They didn't play, so I didn't want to. They didn't play, so they probably should stay the same. See them on the field. It's apparently this Trey Lance is hurt, and like you said, they have Williams out, but Garoppolo is supposed to come back. It was San Francisco. I have to see them play a couple more games before I really know where they are.
Okay.
At 12, I have Tennessee. I bumped them up 3 spots. I mean, they beat one of my top 5 teams, and it was pretty which was a surprise. I didn't even fathom them having a chance to win that game based on how they were playing, and
Yeah.
so I have to give them a little bit of respect for that. At number 13, I have the Colts. They they blew out Houston. Was it Houston this week? Was it
Yeah.
or was it 2 weeks
Yeah.
ago? Yeah, it was Houston this week. I mean, they blew out Houston. I can't really say that that's that impressive. Yeah, they
No.
won over one of my bottom two or bottom three teams in the league, so I left them at 13. 14, I have the Saints. The Saints didn't play this week. I again, it's like San Francisco. I don't know what to think of the
Yeah.
Saints this year. They're really inconsistent, so I don't know if 14's too high. They might be a playoff team if they can get some consistency in that offense and offensively and defensively, but 14 feels about right for them anyways now. At number 15, I have Cleveland. Like I said, with Baker going down, and apparently Baker could miss some time from
Yeah.
what I'm reading, what I'm hearing. He not only he tore his labrum in his non-throwing arm, but he fractured his humerus in his non-throwing arm. So it's like he's definitely going to need surgery in the off season, but the more he gets hit, the more damage he can do to his non-throwing shoulder, and the more it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
And then they have their running backs going down. Their offensive line has a lot of injuries on it. I mean, their defense has injuries on it, and this was obviously before last night's game that I did these rankings. Maybe 7 spots dropping them down was a little bit much, but
Yeah.
I have them at 15.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, typically when teams have that many guys get hurt, it gets kind of disaster time. But I hear you, and I have Cleveland at 11, so I dropped them down 3 spots. And basically, I looked at it as, hey, they lost to Arizona, top team on my board. I'm not going to smoke them too bad for that. Um, but I did say, yeah, some injuries, they got to go down. And so 3 just felt good for me for now. And, honestly, I got to like take some time to digest last night before I figure out what I do with them next week. Because, like you said, Dallas hasn't really been great. They're on a 4-game skid. So, I mean, Denver, sorry, Dallas. Um, so it's like I don't know how crazy things are going to change from next week on my board, but I got the Saints at 12. Like you said, they were on a bye, so nothing crazy happened on my board to move them. 13, I got Indy. I moved them up 1 spot, and that was, this bump was like not so much about beating Houston as it is about Seattle just kind of sliding a little bit further down my board, and so. Um, 14, I got the Bengals. I put them up 3 spots, and it, it might, I don't know, it might seem like a bit much of a bump considering they just beat the Lions, but I think the 3 spot bump is more about me finally catching up to really how well they've played all year, and I've been a little bit gun shy to move them up the board, and so this is kind of like, all right, let's get them a couple more spots up. And then at 15, I got the Raiders, which I didn't move them, but I will say, I mean, you called it. You said that maybe these guys will get galvanized with the coaching change and yada, yada, yada. To me, it was an unlikely win. And so, good for them. But, they're still staying at 15 on my board for now. So back to you at 16.
At 16, I have the Raiders. They got a 1 spot bump. This is more about me being down on Washington and probably seeing Washington sliding the board. And I think the Raiders look better than Washington. I'm not really impressed, especially after last night. I'm not really impressed with the win over Denver, but we'll see what happens with that locker room and if the wheels are going to either fall off or the team's going to go on a run. And we'll see next couple of weeks which one
Yeah.
it's going to be. And like I said, Washington dropped down a spot to 17. Washington has it's weird. Washington has, and I keep saying this every week, Washington has one of the worst defenses in the league that on paper should be one of the best defenses in the league. And
Yep.
I don't know what the fuck is wrong.
Yeah. I mean, you're way higher on them than I am at this point. I mean, I gave up on them, but I like your
Yeah,
positivity.
Yeah, well, I am, and like right now I'm holding out because I see the talent on the defense. I don't want to.
Yeah.
I've been resisting dropping them much further, but like they keep sliding down and sliding down. I think I had them at like 12 at one point coming into the season. So, well, I mean, we'll see what happens. At 18, I have the Patriots. Yeah, they lost. Like 18 and 19, I have the Patriots and the Bears. Two teams that lost, but moved up a slot. And it's more of the fact that I took Seattle from 18 to 20 after last week's game. And like I said going in, if you look at the game and the scoring game and the flow of the game, basically Seattle lost because of what's his name? Geno Smith.
Yeah, Geno Smith, man. The
And I
best backup quarterback in the league, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, and I told you going into that game, if it wasn't Geno Smith starting the game, if it was anybody else but Geno Smith, I might have picked Seattle to win that game. But I didn't trust Geno Smith, and
Yeah.
that's what it turned out to be. They lost. It was overtime. Yeah, they lost in overtime to Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh's one of the shittiest teams in the league.
On a strip sack, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Seattle. See, I by the time Russ comes back, Seattle might be in like my bottom five teams.
Well, yeah, I mean, they could be in dire straits at that point, you know. But
Yeah,
I heard that he might come back the week after next. So, that seems a little bit fast, but, you know,
yeah, I don't know, but I'm really down on what I'm saying. It's like Seattle. Like look, what's his name? Jamal Adams looks like he forgot how to play his position and can't cover anybody anymore, and it's like, what the fuck happened?
yeah, not good, man. Not good. All right, so I've got San Fran at 16. They didn't play, so they were, set to just stand pat. That was cool. Pittsburgh at 17. I know that you think I'm probably crazy, but um, I'm trying to not go crazy. But they did get a win, and it seems like every week now they've been getting these wins, and I've been creeping them up. So 18, I got Seattle. I dropped them down 5 spots. Honestly, I thought they played admirably in that game. It just sucks that until Russell Wilson gets back, you can expect more of this kind of heartbreak from this team. I think. At 19, I got Minnesota. I moved them up 2 spots. I thought it was a nice win over Carolina. And realistically, the Vikings have played good football this year, especially on offense. It's their defense that, you know, they had like the one or two good games, and other than that, the defense has been a liability. And so, if they can get tighter, I think this team has a shot. I like the talent on both sides of the ball. It just, for whatever reason, not coming together on defense. And then at 20, I got Carolina. I dropped them down 2 spots. And they're on a 3-game losing streak, man. And so it makes me wonder if there's something bigger going on with this team. I mean, we're seeing like the Jekyll and Hyde. They look so good early on, and now they look so bad. Like, what the heck is going on here, man?
Yeah, and with I think a portion of it with Carolina is their schedule. Like they started off with a couple easier games, and now, if I remember correctly, I'm just looking. I just want to look at it before I fully say this, but they started off with a couple. Yeah, they started off with the Jets, the Saints, and the Texans, and then okay, so Philadelphia and Minnesota. I mean, those are stronger teams than the first three, or two of the first three. So I mean, we'll see. Luckily for them, they have they have a couple games coming up with two against two pretty shitty teams, so they might be
Gotcha.
able to right the ship a little bit. Um, but for me, at 21, I have the Vikings. I gave them a 3 spot bump. It was more of a I wanted to put the Vikings ahead of Carolina because I mean they
Yeah.
just beat them, so I just wanted to move them up ahead of Carolina. I don't know. This might be high for the Vikings, but they should at least be ahead of Carolina, which I have at 22, which was a 1 spot drop from last week. Broncos I have at 23, which is a 1 spot drop from last week. I probably when I look at my board, the teams I have below the Broncos, I can't say the Broncos are worse than them. Well, I couldn't into last night's game, and now
Yeah.
I'm really starting to question my logic there. But I couldn't say the teams below them were worse than the Broncos or were better than the Broncos. So I only dropped them one spot, and with Minnesota moving up ahead of Carolina, that's where that spot came. Pittsburgh moved up one spot to 24 after beating Seattle. They beat Seattle. I mean, in overtime on this, basically because of a strip sack. It's like Ben Roethlisberger still is shot as a quarterback. He still can't throw the ball worth shit. That defense is kind of playing hit and miss. And look, they're lucky to be in the top 25 on my board. At 25, I have the Giants 2-spot drop. And more I look at this team. I think this week Joe Judge said basically something like he likes the effort on defense. If you like if you were getting the effort you need, or whatever he said, it's like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
Basically, and at least he admitted that the fish stinks from the head down, including himself. What they need to do in New York is they need to get rid of Gettleman. They need to get rid of Joe Judge. They need to get rid of Daniel Jones. They just need to blow it up, hire somebody that has no ties whatsoever to the organization as GM and start from scratch. Like, they hired Gettleman after he was fired from Carolina, and no other team that had GM openings at the time interviewed him for a GM opening, and yet the Giants still hired him. It's like,
there was no reason for it.
Well, no, that and the fact that Carolina is just starting to get over how bad Gettleman left that team.
Yep, I hear you. Okay, so on my side here, I got New England at 21. I moved them up one spot. Despite the loss, I thought they played really well against one of my top teams. I didn't think they had a shot in that game. They made it really interesting, so I thought that's good enough to give them a bump. Denver, I took them down 2. Like we talked about, I was excited about the 3-0 start. The 4-game skid is just, I don't know, it sucks. 23, I got Philly. I pushed them up one spot. Even though they lost, they played really well against the top team. And so, when I watch a lot of these games and the clips about Philly, it just seems apparent to me that it's the running quarterback thing it gives them like such a more dynamic chance to win as a team. He's extending plays, he keeps the offense on the field, and I think a lot of that makes up for a lot of weakness on defense and other parts of the roster that, I think Philly is outperforming their talent level, in my opinion. At 24, I got Chicago. I dropped them down one spot. Hey, Rodgers owns them. We talked a little bit about that. But they did play pretty good.
Owns them. He doesn't just own them. He fucking owns them.
Thank you.
Although this week in an interview he was asked about it, and he said, I know I said I a lot of the time, but I really should have said we, because ever since Favre took over, Green Bay's basically beat the shit out of them.
Yeah, I got you. And so then at 25, I got Washington, and so I kept them where they were at from last week. It was an ugly loss, but it was against a top team. And really, this part of the board's kind of like garbage territory anyhow. I still like them better than the rest of the guys. I'm just having a hard time putting them higher than this when teams above them are finding ways to win. So, yeah, give me 26, man.
All right, it's 26. I have the Eagles. The Eagles stayed at 26. It's more or less, I don't think the Eagles are worse than the teams I have below them. So, and it's garbage territory. Like, you could probably interchange any of these, like 26 through 32. You probably could mix it up week by week and not get a team wrong. These are literally the worst teams in the league. I just think Philadelphia is a little bit better than Atlanta, who I have at 27. They didn't play last week, so nothing really dramatic happened around them, so they stayed at 27. Lions, I have them at 28. I didn't drop them. Look, I expected them to get beat down by Cincinnati. Um, it was actually a little bit closer than I thought it would have been, and that's saying something, seeing as though they lost by 23 points.
Yeah.
But I've had Cincinnati consistently in my top 10 for a while now. I know Cincinnati's a good team, and I don't expect much. I'm trying to see when the Lions are gonna actually get a fucking win this year.
Yep.
Still, at 29, I have Jacksonville. I bumped them up 3 spots, and when we get, I basically flipped Jacksonville and Miami,
Okay.
and here, and 30, I have the Jets. Jets didn't play. Um, One team ahead of them lost to a team that was below them, which got that flip. So the Jets stayed at 30.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah. On my side, I got Atlanta at 26. Like you said, they didn't play and they didn't move. There wasn't that kind of action around them on the board. 27, I got Jacksonville. I moved them up 5 spots. I get it. It's probably a little bit aggressive, but kind of like what I was saying earlier, I think that they're a much better team than they were in week one. I think every week they're getting a little bit better with Trevor Lawrence. And I do like the talent on the roster. Honestly, I do. I think that, they got just as much of a chance or more against any of these other teams at the bottom of the board here. 28, I got the Giants. They lost in poor fashion at that, but it was against my number two team, so I didn't feel like dropping them at that point. I mean, plus they're just, until they get healthy, it's going to be hard to do anything with them. 29, I got Miami. I dropped them down 2. Just disappointed. That's all I can say there. 30, I got the Jets. No game, no movement. That was cool. And yeah, back to you for the dumpster fire.
All right, 31, I have Houston. Um, I don't know. I just realized this, that Houston beat Jacksonville, so I have them below. But Houston looks like they basically have given up.
It's two different trajectories. Houston, they lost Tyrod Taylor. They've been sloping down. Jacksonville, every week Trevor Lawrence is getting better. They're going up. That's just kind of the way
That's
that
a
I
good,
justified doing that on my board.
that's a good point. I didn't think like I. It just occurred to me as I was looking at it now that I had that. But you're right. Houston is sloping down. Jacksonville is sloping up. So that makes logical sense. Um, 32. I have Miami. Miami is a fucking dumpster fire down there. I like everything I'm reading about Miami is negative. Like Flores, the locker room's given up on them. They've given up on Tua. Um,
Yeah.
it's like nobody in the locker room respects Flores, and like it's just like, what the fuck is going on? What happened to this team?
Yeah, such a turnaround from last year in the worst possible kind of way. All right, so on my side here, I got Houston at 31. They got blown out, but that's what was expected. So I just kept them where they were at. At 32, this is, my sad to say it here, but I dropped the Lions down 3 spots. It just looked to me like they gave up in that game. And I feel like at this point, Campbell's going to have to do something drastic to get that fight back in him, whether it's cut a guy, bench a big name guy, trade a guy, whatever. He's going to have to do something because they fought hard all year and they had a couple nail biters that they lost, which just sucked. But that Cincy game, I don't know, man. I didn't see anywhere near that same kind of fight, man. And so
No.
it just, you know, I think the rest of the season it could be rough if he doesn't do something to get them to keep trying here.
I agree, and that's a good point. It does look like they've kind of given up. I mean, it only took 6 games for them to give up on Dan Campbell, and part of it is he's I don't know. I also didn't like the fact that he fucking called out Jared Goff this week, like Jared
Yeah.
Goff is publicly, especially when the week when Jared Goff is playing his old team, which I heard something interesting this week. So Jared Goff has only won football games when coached by Sean McVay.
Yep, I heard the same
Every
thing.
other coach he's had, he has
Yeah,
not won a game for. It was
yeah.
whether it was Jeff Fisher, I forget who was his interim coach before Jeff Fisher, and then now Dan
Dan
Campbell.
Campbell. Yeah.
He's only won games with McVay as coach.
Yeah. My whole thing with that is he's on a shit team. He's got no talent around him. They got a couple running backs, that's great, but and they got Hawkinson, but they don't have any wide receivers. And dude, this might sound crazy, but of course, this time of year, the Odell Beckham trade rumors are flying about, he's not doing this team any good, get him out of there. Honestly, I kind of thought if you're the Lions, make them some just ridiculous offer, like not in a good way. Just throw them something and see if they bite on it, because that's actually a place where he could actually have a ton of value. Okay, you're the number one. You got a capable quarterback. There's no competition,
They
and
don't have a capable quarterback.
you're going to get a whole bunch of targets. Yeah, I don't know, dude. So
They need to bench Goff. Like every time I've fucking watched the Lions, it's Goff throwing an interception, Goff's fumbling the ball. Whether or not it's a lost fumble or not, it doesn't fucking matter. It's like Goff is a double agent. He turns over the ball all the fucking time, and it, I don't care who you have at wide receiver. If your quarterback's turning over the ball all the fucking time, you ain't gonna do shit.
I got you. I got you. I'm not going to defend him because he's sucking it up. So okay. So done with the power rankings.
Yeah,
Okay, let's move it to the game picks. And so here's where we're at season to date. James, you're sitting at, that's not right. You're sitting at 54 wins, which is good for 57%. And I'm sitting at 60 wins, which is good for 64%. Um, I think that's, I picked up another game on you. Oh, I thought you picked up one on me. I guess I had it backwards. Um,
yeah. I was the Patriots. I the only one out of the three we had different last week I got right was the Bengals. The other ones, the
oh,
one of them was
gotcha,
like the Patriots. It was a close game, but they didn't win.
gotcha. Hey, it's all good. Still a lot of season to go. So let's
Unfortunately, I almost texted you fucking early ass Sunday morning and said I'm switching to the Jaguars, and I
uh
thought about it. I was like, no, there's no way I can do it. And so because as we look what happened last night, if I would have switched to the Jaguars, Miami obviously would have won the game because last night I switched to Denver from Cleveland, and
yeah,
fucking Cleveland won the game.
yeah. So well, I mean, hey, we had a little bit of action on Thursday night. You and I, we've been picking the same team the whole way through. This is the first difference, I believe. And so um it's all good, man. You did it for the right reasons. A lot of injuries, hard to trust that. And I think it just goes to show that Denver has bigger problems right now.
Mhm.
Um, But so that's cool. Let's jump to the weekend. Let's look at the first game. We got Carolina at the New York Giants. Who do you like there?
This game is the fucking Dave Gettleman Bowl. Neither team really wants him, but they have it. The Giants fucking suck. They're not going to do shit this year. They might get one or two more wins. Definitely have Carolina winning this game, and probably by a wide margin.
Okay. I've got Carolina winning as well, and to me, it's more about the injuries for the Giants. They still got Barkley, Galladay, big name guys out. I think that's an issue. Carolina, I am suspect after their last couple games. It does make me nervous, but I think, a healthy Carolina team is better than a hurt New York Giants team. Probably better than a healthy New York Giants team, but, either way. Okay, next up, we got the New York Jets at the New England Patriots.
There's, I mean, if it wasn't the Jets, like Patriots can't go 0-5 at home. Like,
Uh,
that's just fucking ridiculous. There's no way the Patriots can go 0-5 at home. Luckily, to get that first win at home, they have the Jets, who are a fucking terrible team. So I'm on the Patriots.
I got you. Yeah, and I'll say this: the Patriots, I think they've actually played pretty well this year, especially considering they got a rookie quarterback under center. They just haven't been able to get the wins. But I think that changes here because this is a very favorable game for them. And kind of like, you know, the Packers owning the Bears, the Pats have owned the Jets for a long time now too. So, um, it's totally different teams, but you know what I'm saying. Next up, we got Kansas City at Tennessee. Who do you like there?
This this game is incredibly hard for me to pick. And I keep going back and forth on it, back and forth on it. I can't trust either team in
Yeah,
this one. It's like Tennessee seems to be playing better, but then again, they've been incredibly inconsistent. Kansas City, that defense is fucking ridiculously terrible. Like, like Derrick Henry's probably gonna have a huge game, but Darrell Williams has had a huge game last week, and he's in line for another huge game against Tennessee. Uh, what it boiled down to me on this is with possibly AJ Brown, who has stomach issues apparently, and Julio Jones may or may not play this week. I don't know who Tennessee has to throw the
yeah.
ball to there, so I'm gonna take Kansas City.
Okay. That was a long-winded way of getting there, but you made it. And I'm just going to simplify it for me. I'm going Kansas City. I know they're leading the league in turnovers, but they're also leading the league in passing touchdowns in total offense. And the Tennessee defense is just too suspect for me. So I'm going with the Chiefs here. Next up, we got the Washington football team at the Green Bay Packers.
Uh, all right. Simply put, Washington is playing really shitty this year. Green Bay is playing inconsistent, but pulling it out. Besides the first week, Rodgers and Devontae Adams are going to have a freaking ridiculous game against that defense, and Green Bay is going to going to win the game.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, if the Washington defense was doing anything, I might think about it. But it's Green Bay versus Washington. Obviously, I'm going the Packers. Okay, next up we got the Falcons at the Dolphins. Who you like there?
Those are two shit teams that are fucking playing each other, and
Yes.
what it boiled down to me was there's so much shit going on in Miami that I can't trust them to pull out the win here. Miami's also just flew back from London and has to play this week, which is
Oh
really
yeah.
strange. And so yeah, it's in Miami, but I'm gonna go with the Falcons.
I got you. I'm going with Atlanta as well in this one. Um, with the Dolphins, I think they're desperate to get a win, and it helps them that they're at home. And I think Tua is even more desperate to get a win so he can show them, hey, I am your quarterback. But I just can't trust anything about that team. Atlanta, they still got Matt Ryan. He's still a very good quarterback. Um, and freaking Cordero Patterson, man, just like lighting it up out of nowhere. But um, you know, two bottom feeder teams on my board. I'm just going to give the edge to Atlanta. Next up, we got the Bengals at the Ravens. The only game this week where both teams have a winning record, James.
Yeah, I think even though even though Lamar Jackson's never lost to Cincinnati,
Oh, I didn't
right?
know that.
He's 5-0 against Cincinnati with an average margin of victory of just under 21 points a game.
Okay.
The Ravens, the last three games against the Bengals combined, the Ravens outscored them 114-19.
Holy cow.
With all that said, like I just went straight on my power rankings on this one, and I have Cincinnati ahead of the Ravens just by a nudge, and so I'm going with Cincinnati.
Okay, I got you. Well, we got a little bit of action. I'm going with Baltimore here. Um, I like Baltimore at home, man. I got them pretty close on my board now too, but I favor Baltimore. Next up, we got Detroit at the Los Angeles Rams. Freaking revenge games all around here. But like, really, come on. We know what's going on in this game.
So this game, other life situations weren't happening, I probably would have tried to get tickets to this game because it's my neck of the woods. But hey, life happens, and I decided not to push it with
Him,
the one.
yeah.
And plus this weekend, actually tomorrow was the original due date of the girl, so. It'd be fucking pretty shitty on me with the original due date to get tickets to the game the day after.
Yeah.
So apparently Stafford has 16 touchdown passes this season,
Yeah.
so far, and he has the most in NFL history in a player's first 6 games with the team, which makes sense seeing as though mostly quarterbacks like this don't move around that much.
Yeah.
The Lions, while I could see the Lions going in and shocking the Rams, like I could see that in like my dream fantasy world. If I can't pick the Lions to beat the Rams are just that much better, and yeah, there's no way the Lions are gonna be in this game.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I'd love to see Goff put up a good fight, but I'm not seeing it at all. The Lions are just so lacking of talent, and the Rams are just so stacked. So it's not going to happen. I'm going with the Rams. Next up, we got the Philadelphia Eagles at the Las Vegas Raiders.
So while I'm on the Raiders for this game, I thought the interesting thing about this game was and this is a big if, Jalen Hurts rushes for 2 touchdowns, he'll be the first player to rush for 2 touchdowns, first QB to rush for 2 touchdowns in 3 straight games, which I didn't know he had 2 touchdowns rushing the last 2 games, but I thought
Yeah.
that was interesting.
I hope he gets it.
Derek Carr's playing phenomenal. He has the most passing yards most passing yards in the first 7 games of the season, just ahead of Rich Gannon in 2002.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. He's close to it. He needs 54 passing yards he's 54 shy of 2000, and he could set that. My fault. Bad notes.
I got you.
But
It's all good.
I'm on the Raiders here. I can't see any way the Eagles win this game.
So I'm actually going Philly, and I'm just picking an upset, and I like how well Philly played against the Bucks. I think the Raiders are a clear tier below that, which means Philly actually could surprise. And I think that the Raiders, like you said, it was like last week they galvanized. That was great. I just don't know that that's sustainable under the kind of change they're going through. And so, maybe I'm wrong, any given Sunday kind of thing. We'll see what happens. Next up, we got Houston at Arizona. Another revenge game. Ah.
Yeah, but JJ Watt kind of addressed that. Like even from last year to this year, like not a lot of the same players.
No.
I know Arizona's going to have a letdown game at some point, and I'm questioning whether they're going to look ahead because on Thursday night they have
Green
the
Bay.
Packers.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a big game, but I just can't pick the Texans to beat the Cardinals. If it was any other team besides the Texans, I might. Well, yeah, if it was any other team besides the Texans, I might pick an upset in this game, but there's no way. No
Yeah, no,
way.
I'm with you, dude, all the way. And actually, for the exact same reasons, I thought maybe they look ahead to Green Bay, and somebody could nip them here, but it's Houston, so it's like, man, even if they're looking ahead, I gotta believe that they're gonna get the win here. So I'm going Arizona. Next up, we got Chicago at Tampa Bay.
So interesting, as long as Tom Brady's been in the league, this will be his first game against an Ohio State quarterback.
Just trying to think of some other ones,
Yeah,
and
it's
that's
like
my issue.
no, like okay, so like you had Dwayne Haskins at Washington, but they played in the playoffs and Haskins was already gone.
Yeah, I
You
guess I
had
already forget about Haskins because it was such a short-lived thing, it seems like.
yeah, I'm trying to think other ones, but this week he kind of put a couple digs in there against Ohio State. But if you look at these two teams matched up last year, and this was the game where Brady was confused about the down, and
Oh
it was a
yeah.
Thursday night game, and everything. And I think even though AB and Gronk are hurt, I think Tampa Bay is going to come out and just be super focused on winning the game.
Yeah, I mean, I like that it's in Tampa Bay. I think that even with the injuries, Tampa Bay still has a lot more talent on that team. The only thing that gives me concern is that the Bears defense has been playing incredibly well this year. Um, and we know that if you can get pressure on Brady, that drastically changes the outcome of the game. But I think, I like Tampa Bay still nonetheless. So I'm going with the Bucks. Next up, we got the Indianapolis Colts at the San Francisco 49ers.
So if if Trey Lance wasn't injured, you could see in this game two North Dakota State quarterbacks going against each other.
Yeah, that would have been a once in a ever kind of thing.
And yeah, once and ever. Like who the fuck? I think the Colts have turned it around though, and I have some serious concerns with Garoppolo coming back from the injury, especially with Williams possibly being out, whichever one it was, and Taylor's starting to take over the game. So I'm going to go with the Colts in that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Indy is looking up. I think they got past their rough patch in the schedule, and they're. I think they're better as a team now because they've gotten to this point. So, San Fran, it's another injury riddled kind of year for them, and so I just can't trust it. So I'm going with the Colts as well. Next up, we got the Saints at the Seahawks.
So this is week 7, and basically this year the Seahawks have not held a team under 100 yards rushing.
Mm. Well, I mean, yeah, they've got, easily one of the worst defenses.
One of the worst defenses. For yardage wise, they have the worst defense. They're allowing 433.2 yards per game this season.
Jeez. Yeah, that's not
It's
good.
again, it's the same logic as last week. If Geno Smith was anybody else, I could see considering picking Seattle to win this game.
Yeah.
If it was Russ, definitely it would be Seattle. I don't really trust Jameis. I don't trust the Saints to be consistent. Um, so I'm going to go with the Saints though in this game.
I'm with you. I'm going with the Saints as well. I like their defense a lot better than I like Seattle's defense. And offensively, Jameis obviously has shown the potential. And they still got Kamara that, they can do things. And so I like them better than a Geno Smith led Seahawks team. Okay, so moving it ahead to next Thursday. We got the Packers at the Cardinals, man. That's going to be a frickin' I mean, on paper, that looks like it's going to be a freaking sweet game.
Yeah, my early prediction for this game, it's pending what I see this weekend, but I can't see Arizona lose. I can see Arizona. Like I really, it's going to be a really tough game, and I'll probably change 5 times before game time.
Yeah,
Um, but right now, I think I'm on the Cardinals, and it's going to depend on what I see this weekend, what I see going into the game, where my ultimate pick is. But I'm reserving the right to change this pick
sure.
by
Yeah.
before kickoff.
Hey, until they kick that ball, you can do whatever you got to do. I'm going Arizona. It's in Arizona. Both these teams are legit. You know, they're both very high on my board, but Arizona's my number one team on the board playing at home. For that reason alone, I'm going with Arizona. Okay, those are the picks. Let's move it on here. Question of the week. So, James, I was watching NFL Network this week, and they were saying they were showing stats for Derrick Henry comparing to Adrian Peterson when he won his MVP year, LaDainian Tomlinson when he won his MVP year, and Derrick Henry. I mean, he's got a lot of touchdowns compared to Peterson. I think at this point in the year, Peterson only had freaking 2 touchdowns. Henry's already at 10. Um, and then yardage wise, he's kicking butt. And so the question, which I'm stealing, is that do you think Derrick Henry has a realistic chance to win the MVP? And if so, what would need to happen for that to occur? And, I looked at it. I think that, if he continues his pace, he's making a great case for sure, like no doubt. Um, I think the team has to make the playoffs, which flip a coin right now. Some weeks they look like they will, some weeks they don't look like they will. Um, but I also just feel like in today's day and age with quarterbacks, you kind of got to have like some of those top quarterbacks tail off a little bit, or you got to have like maybe a few of them too similarly like statistically rated so that it's easier to look at a running back. Otherwise, it just, man, yeah, I mean, you hear it all the time. It's a quarterback driven league. And as much as I love what Derrick Henry's doing, I don't think he's going to have like 35 touchdowns or anything, which, you know, I think it just puts him at a disadvantage.
I agree with you. It puts him at a disadvantage. I think he has a legitimate shot at it. I would say even more. Tennessee has to win that division, be one of the top 2 teams in the AFC, and because he's carrying the team. And if they're
Yeah.
top 2 in the AFC or have top 4 record in the league, then I could see him winning it.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I mean, some of these quarterbacks definitely have to tail off
Oh, yeah.
to for him to have a shot at it.
Cool, cool. I'm with you. Okay, so for anybody who's still watching, just like Name That Stadium, hit us up in the comments section, answer our question of the week, let us know what you think. James, that's all I got, man. What do you have? Any closing thoughts?
No, that's all I got.
Well, that's all she wrote. It was fun, man. I'll catch you next week.
All right, sounds good.
See ya.
Gridiron Grinder. Hut hut hike.